Hi guys, this is Hero. How's everyone doing today? So today I have the video of Mars transiting the sign of Taurus, okay? Now, why is this important? Because of two main reasons off the jump before I go into more smaller details. So the main reason is because Mars is in the opposite sign of itself, okay? So Mars owns Aries and Scorpio. Taurus is opposite of Scorpio. And I made a video on the significance of opposite signs before, okay? But most people do not place any significance on when a planet is transiting through its opposite sign or a planet is sitting in the opposite sign and it's in a chart. But I place very high significance on this, right? Why? Because just real quick, a planet governs certain energies, right? Like Mars owns Aries and Scorpio. Now, if a planet is in the opposite of its own energies, it's obviously really significant. It's literally like it's feeling like it's in the opposite like place of exactly where it wants to be. Okay, so obviously there's some significance here. Like when a planet is in exaltation versus debilitation, there's some significance. But I don't know why there's not any special significance for when a planet is in its opposite sign. Okay, but long story short, when Mars or any planet transits its opposite signs, it's important. Okay, so Mars is in the opposite sign of Taurus. The second reason why it's important is because Mars quickly after this transit. So this transit occurs between like August 10th or 11th to like October like 15th, 16th, or 17th. Around these dates, right? A little bit over 2 months. The exact date will be in the description, the video title. Now, right after this transit, Mars goes retrograde, right? Which is important. Why? Because whenever a planet, besides Mercury, because Mercury goes retrograde so quickly, whenever a planet goes retrograde, about a month-ish before it starts slowing down, okay? And especially Venus and Mars, especially Mars, because Mars moves a little bit slower than Venus, and Mars and Venus, they go retrograde not very frequently. So they start slowing down a long time before, okay? Especially Mars because it goes retrograde even less often than Venus and for a longer time. So, yeah, so Mars, it's moving pretty slow throughout this transit. Not like it's moving a little bit slower, okay? Because and then there's a key component I want to tie into this. Okay, so I'm gonna make a separate video when Mars goes retrograde in Taurus later, like in the late fall. But Mars right now it's moving forward slowly in Taurus in its opposite sign, and then it's gonna go retrograde backwards. So right now Mars is having that a little bit of that, more of that stationary energy going through its opposite sign. And then later, it's going to go through the same sign, having a little bit more of that retrograde energies, okay? Now, I've kind of discussed retrograde and stationary energies in another video more in detail, but you can just look that up. But when a planet in general is more stationary, it's a little bit more aware, okay? This is why Saturn and Jupiter, they move a little bit slower. They're pretty aware as a whole, right? So when Mars is going through Taurus, its opposite sign, it's going to be a little bit more aware, okay, in general. But then when it goes retrograde, it's going to act a little bit more karmically, like Rahu or Ketu, okay? So what does this mean in general? When it's moving forward right now, because you guys know I look at the bigger picture, even though I'm making a separate video on the retrograde later, because the retrograde is obviously a little bit more powerful. When it's moving forward right now, we have an opportunity to do something about it right now on our own, okay? And especially because Mars is in its own opposite sign, it's a little bit more important to take a little bit of action and develop the right consciousness and awareness in regards to this, okay? But when Mars is moving retrograde later, it's kind of going to force you to do certain things. But we have an opportunity to become aware and do these things right now and grow our own spiritual consciousness and elevation and things like this. So that's good news, right? Even though it's in its own opposite sign. Now, to get started. So Mars is in its own opposite sign of Taurus, right? Now, what's so specific about Mars and Taurus? Well, Mars owns Aries and Scorpio, right? So because of this, Mars is a little bit more like explosive, expansive, right? Taurus is all about stability, right? So Mars, when it's in Taurus, the opposite sign of Scorpio, Mars wants to be intuitive like Scorpio, right? But instead it's feeling a little bit more restrictive, too stable, locked in, things like this, right? It's feeling like trapped, imprisoned. So that's kind of how Mars is feeling at a general in whole. You could feel, just off the jump, just for this video, you could feel like when it comes to the Martian side of you, if you, in these transit videos, it's very important to be able to isolate within you the energies for yourself, right? Like being able to identify, because these planets are all us, but they're all also a little bit separate. But it's important to go within and kind of do the spiritual work to identify, okay, how's Jupiter for us, how's Saturn for us, how's Mars for us, etc. But when it comes to that Martian energy inside you, you could feel a little bit in general, right? Because I don't know all of you guys' charts and dasha information and stuff like this, but you could feel that, okay, the Martian energy in me is feeling a little bit more trapped, like restricted, things like this. Okay, so that's kind of at a gist what happens. Now let's add a little bit of the layers. So Mars's main sign, Aries, it has Rahu in it, right? Now Aries is a sign of changes. So when Rahu's not good, right? It's like the temptation, the illusion. So what this means is that Mars is feeling restricted and Rahu is trying to tempt your Mars, okay? And it's saying, hey, you know what? We're feeling a little bit stuck in life, whatever. Let's try to do this, okay? And when it comes, and it's a little bit important to identify that Rahu energy within you too. You don't want to do the things that Rahu tells you to do, right? I'll give you a little bit of an example. Let's just say every day you come home and you have a smoke. You don't want to listen to Rahu and say, hey, you know what? We're feeling a little bit stuck. We're feeling a little bit down in life. We're feeling a little bit restricted. Let's have a drink with the smoke, okay? Or let's just say you're watching something on the internet or TV. You don't want to listen to Rahu and say, hey, you know what? Instead of watching one episode, let's watch 3, 4, because we need a little bit more of that rush. Or let's watch some different crazier things on TV, okay? Don't do that. Now, the good news is Jupiter is in Pisces, okay? And it aspects Scorpio with its 9th aspect, okay? And it's retrograde, so it can have little bursts of more powerful energies, okay? So Jupiter's in Pisces aspecting Scorpio, which is Mars' sign, okay? And it also happens to be the sign across from where Mars is sitting currently. So Jupiter can add a little bit of that intuition to Mars because it's aspecting Scorpio. And Mars is naturally a little bit more intuitive as a whole. So what we could do is through Mars itself and through Jupiter helping Mars, we could say, hey, you know what? Instead of listening to Rahu and trying to start all this stuff that we shouldn't, let's end all this stuff that we shouldn't. Okay, I'll give you an example. Instead of when we come home and have a smoke, instead of adding a drink to this, let's just acknowledge that we're feeling stuck. And this is part of the reason why we're feeling stuck long-term smoking. So let's just stop doing this. Okay, we're gonna feel stuck throughout this whole transit, but we don't need to feel more stuck or whatever in the long term after this transit is over. Because this transit's gonna end. But this transit can give us the awareness of saying, hey, we're stuck. We're gonna be stuck regardless. Let's not beat around the bush and think adding anything or doing any of the garbage that we're currently doing is gonna help that situation. Okay, because smoking long term, it's gonna make you more stuck because you're gonna get hooked on it and your brain's gonna get used to the smoking and it's not gonna mean anything and it's not gonna add any value in the long term. And actually, over time, you're actually gonna build up a slight dependence on the smoking, all this kind of stuff, right? So, and it's not gonna give you the same rush as you did before. And you actually need more smoking to feel that much rush or more. And if you don't increase the amount that you smoke, you're actually like lowering your your overall levels of happiness, your state of happiness. Okay, so I beat that smoking point too much. But my point is, or let's just say you watch something on TV or the internet, you can use that Jupiterian energies and say, hey, you know what? This is not helping us in the long term, okay? We're gonna feel stuck throughout this transit, but let's not feel stuck after this transit, okay? Let's just stop doing this. Let's just go within, realize all the things that are promoting us to be more stuck going forward, and let's just stop doing that stuff, okay? Rather than listening to Rahu and saying, hey, let's do all this new stuff. It'll get us out of this stuckness, which it won't. Okay, you just have to realize, use Jupiter in the consciousness and say, hey, look, we're gonna feel stuck throughout this transit, but there's certain things that we're doing now. Our awareness of how stuck we are in life is blown to the max, right? So we can kind of see, okay, what's really making us more stuck after this transit, and let's stop that now. Okay? And just a little bit of a heads up, if you don't stop right now, and you have that awareness because Mars is moving real slow, right? If you don't, there's certain things, I'm not saying everything, but there's certain things that when Mars goes retrograde, you're really going to be pressured to stop. Okay, there's a difference between being aware and stopping, which is kind of like right now, and you can be aware and stop everything, Okay, if your spiritual consciousness gets to that strong point, you can stop everything and be really good. Or when Mars goes retrograde, you can be forced to stop some stuff, okay, which is going to cause you pain, and you haven't even developed that conscious awareness on your own, possibly, and it's going to be a little bit more harsh, and you might not even stop everything you're supposed to stop, okay, because stationary versus retrograde energy is a little bit more different. Because yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So just a little heads up, okay? You want to use that awareness to stop everything right now that's causing you to be stuck in life, okay? Don't start anything new, okay? Now, another quick point is that Mars aspects Leo with this 4th aspect, and Rahu aspects Leo with the 5th aspect, okay? Throughout this transit, there's 3 important planets that move through Leo, okay? There's Mercury. Mercury is actually there at the start of this transit, and then it leaves. Right before it leaves, Sun comes through Leo, and then like I want to say about halfway through Sun leaving, Venus comes in. Okay, so they're never really alone, but these 3 planets in general, I guess you can say for the most part, represent your material life, okay, or like your normal material life. I'm not including Moon just because it moves so fast transit-wise. Mercury represents your rational intelligence, which is a huge part of your material life. Sun represents your identity, and Venus represents your enjoyment, which is all 3 of these are a huge part of your material life. When these 3 planets respectively move through Leo, because like I said, Mars, it's in its opposite sign, throwing a 4th aspect on Leo. So you're fulfilled. What does Leo represent? You're Leo, and I discussed a little bit more in my Sun and Leo video, which I just released recently. But Leo represents like your fulfillment, or like how fulfilled do you feel within yourself, kind of. Okay. So your fulfillment's going to get affected, right? Because Mars is kind of throwing a malefic aspect on it, and it's already not in the best place as it is. And Rahu's throwing that 5th aspect on it from Aries, okay? So you could feel not fulfilled, and also Rahu's throwing that 5th aspect there, trying to tempt you to do certain things to get more fulfilled, okay, also. As well as influencing Mars directly, because Rahu's in Mars' sign. So when these 3 planets go through there, you want to specifically watch out for these energies, okay? The rational intelligence, the identity, and the material enjoyment, okay? Well, that the whole point I said right now about, don't start anything new, try to see all the things you should stop doing. When these 3 planets go through there, target specifically these energies, okay? Like when it's Mercury, don't try to make any crazy job jumps, okay, or say anything crazy. Sun, don't buy any crazy clothes or car or something with ego, like identity based, right? And Venus, don't do anything when it comes to material enjoyment, right? And I'd say how much you have to watch out for each of these kind of increases as you go along, okay? Mercury, obviously, yeah, you need to watch out for, especially because in the Western system, Leo is Mercury's debilitation sign. But Mercury's kind of already there when this transit starts, and it moves pretty quickly out of there. But obviously you need to watch out, and it's kind of like the start to all this, right? Then Sun, which is Leo's own sign, okay? You need to watch out for that a little bit more. And then when Venus comes in, you need to watch out a lot, right? Because Venus, it's kind of with the Sun, okay? Which it's kind of a little bit closer to the Sun, I mean. And also, Mars is in Taurus, which is Venus's sign. And then Ketu is in Libra, so Venus is already not in a hot spot. So you really want to watch out for Mercury, watch out for things in regards to that. Watch out for Sun a little bit more when Sun goes in there, but then really watch out for Venus things when Venus goes into Leo, okay? I just want to make that clear. So that's kind of what I wanted to say in regards to these 3. Whenever these 3 pass through a sign together, in connection to any transit, either they're passing through where the planet actually is, the transit planet actually is, or a transit planet is aspecting, they're usually going to be pretty important, and I'm going to touch on them, okay? One final thing I want to say. Mars is in Taurus, and as I just said, Venus owns 2 signs, Taurus and Libra. This is not something that a lot of people look at or value a lot, but whenever a planet is in a planet's sign, so if Mars is in Venus's sign, Venus's other sign, which is Libra, also affects Taurus. They both affect each other, okay? Even if there's no planet that directly is sitting in those places, aspecting something or anything like that, they both affect each other. Okay. So when Mars, especially if like the planet in the secondary sign is heavily influenced by the planet in the primary sign. I'm gonna make a separate video about this later. But like, for example, Mars is in Venus's secondary sign of Taurus, so it's pretty influenced by Venus's primary sign of Libra. Okay, quite a bit. What does this mean? So Mars is already pretty frustrated. Okay, being in Taurus. So, and Venus is not in a hot spot either, going through Leo, like I just said. So Venus owns two signs, right? Its primary sign in Libra and the secondary sign in Taurus. So Mars is in Taurus. It's not in a great spot. Venus is not in a great spot. These two energies of Mars and Venus, because they're kind of working together, because Mars is in Venus's sign and Mars is also aspecting Venus, they're kind of going to seek support, I guess you can say, from Libra. And what's making me say this? Well, there's a reason why Venus is, or you can apply this concept to any planet, okay? There's a reason why Venus's secondary sign is Taurus and primary sign is Libra, okay? Because Taurus represents material enjoyment, okay, with things. But Libra affects, is material enjoyment with people, relations, right? The enjoyment with things doesn't really mean much if you're not doing it with anybody, like if you're doing it alone, right? But if, let's just say you don't have much in life, but you have the right people, you're still in a pretty good place, right? Same thing, let's just say I'll take Saturn's two signs, right? Its main sign is Aquarius, but its secondary sign is Capricorn, right? So yeah, you could be disciplined all you want, but it doesn't really mean anything. The Capricorn energies don't mean much if you're not doing it for the right purposes, which is Aquarius, right? So just kind of want to throw out that concept of the main sign. So I just said it's okay if you don't have the things as long as you have the right people. So Taurus is very afflicted and Venus is very afflicted. So you don't try to seek support by having enjoyment with people, right? Because Ketu's there, right? Ketu's in Libra, and Rahu is actually across from Ketu, which happens to also be, for this situation, Mars's main sign, okay? Because if you try to seek support, like Taurus support, or I guess you can say Venus support from Libra, this is going to end up in a disaster, okay? Because in regards to this transit, especially with Mars, because Ketu's in Libra, it'll burn you. And it's very headless. And Mars is in Aries, malefically influencing, Rahu's in Aries, malefically influencing that Mars, okay? So don't try to start something new, especially with other people, okay? Or else it's going to end very badly, okay? I'll just say that. Because you'll see this energy, because this Martian energy, it'll try to seek a little bit of support from Libra, okay? But you'll feel that Ketu warning, like, don't try it over here. Please do not try it over here. Just go within. Use that Jupiterian energy to stop doing the things you need to stop. But definitely don't try it over here. But if you do, it'll end in disaster, okay? And like I said, Ketu and Rahu kind of feed off each other, okay? Even though they're opposites and they're across from each other, they feed off each other. So if you try to seek support from Ketu, your Rahu energy is going to get a little bit more activated. Like, let's just say you start some relationship or affair with somebody else. It doesn't go well. And then your Rahu energies get activated and you start drinking out of control because you can't, you're emotionally all over the place and your ego is burned and all this stuff, especially because, Sun is in Leo and Rahu's aspecting Leo now. So you start drinking, your ego is bruised, all this kind of stuff. I think you guys get the point I'm trying to make. Okay, so just don't do this, okay? But I think I hammered enough of this Rahu and Taurus energy in this video. I'll discuss more, obviously, when Rahu goes retrograde in Taurus, because it'll be a completely different thing, but also a little bit similar at the same time, okay? But like I said, the name of the game, Mars is in its opposite sign, but it's moving slow. Be very aware of the things that are bothering you that you're doing. Try to stop doing those things. Connect to that Jupiterian energies. Don't try to start anything new in relation to the Rahu energies, or especially with relationships, because Ketu's in Libra. And watch out for the planets that cross through Leo, especially in regards to those specific energies of the planets that cross through Leo around those certain time periods when those planets go through Leo, like I just discussed. Okay, so if you have any questions or comments, you guys can feel free to let me know. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you very much for watching.